Welcome to episode 20 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. Court Martial.
In this week's episode, Kirk comes under suspicion when a crewman he had clashed with in the past is killed during an ion storm. Despite a previous association with the Prosecutor, the evidence against him steadily builds. But is his career over? Or will his experienced attorney pull something out of the bag?
Awards of Valor, Medal of Honor, Silver Palm with Cluster, Starfleet Citation for Conspicuous Gallantry, Farragut's Order of Heroism.
I think that's enough.
Stop. Oh, I think that's plenty. Let's just stop there. I'm surprised.
I thought they were discussing me at one point.
Did you?
Yeah.
With all those honours?
Yeah.
Well,
no?
it's a different list.
That's how you think of me, isn't it, Ian?
Rap sheet.
That's how you would describe me.
Well, maybe not in those specific terms.
Yeah, okay.
I'm surprised you picked that as the opening clip. There was another one that I had my eye on when I went through the episode.
Was it later than that?
Yes.
That's why I didn't pick it.
Probably.
That's the first one I came to.
I think Kirk says you're either a crazy person that's out of their mind or you're Samuel T. Cogley.
Yes, now we'll get to that. I like Cogley's response, and I have to say that this week's episode, I don't hate it, but I have massive issues with it. I think Cogley's the best thing about it, but there are big problems.
I think we're going to have plenty of time to get to them.
We will. Anything that you want to chat about before we get on with things?
Well, I talked last week about the variety that Star Trek gives us, and here we are with a courtroom drama.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I do like a courtroom drama.
Obviously, we had the Menagerie, the two-parter, was a courtroom drama as well, which probably left the cast and crew sick to the back teeth, given that it was filmed back-to-back with this episode. Do you feel it took you back to that stage of the series?
It did have that sort of tone.
Yeah, that was the connection there then.
Slightly unpolished.
Yeah, so from here on out, it's later produced and later filmed episodes all the way to the end of the season.
Okay. We've got a lot to talk about.
Plenty. Should we get moving?
Let's crack on. There's a more dynamic opening. This week we've got 2 Enterprise-type ships and a little shuttlecraft buzzing around.
Yeah.
Seems a busier place.
They're at they're not the only people to show up at this starbase.
Yeah.
Starbase 11, I believe.
I think it is. I've got a captain's log, 2947.3, where we are told that they've lost a crew member when they passed through an ion storm. And because of this, there's been a lot of damage to the Enterprise, and they're stopping off at the aforementioned Starbase 11 for repairs.
Nobody usually cares when they lose a crew member.
No.
This is their one time.
Kirk does it left, right and every week. It's to be expected. How many this week? Only 4. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Decent percentage.
Always red shorts. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. That's what they're there for.
I like the shots. It was, we've got a nice... yeah, we've seen a nice... I don't know if it's a matte painting or whatever it was back in those days, but it's a nice view of this place, which I did appreciate.
Of the starbase?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a few actually in this episode. There's quite a lot of nice shots that I liked. Changed things up a bit.
A little bit of a different style, even though it's a experienced or established director.
Mm-hmm. The log ends as we enter the starbase, and we are told that a full report of the damages has been detailed and given to a Commander Stone.
Was it Commander? I thought it was Commodore.
Maybe. Could be.
Okay. Either way, we're at Stone's office.
He's a port master. I mean, it might also be a commander. I don't know how these things work.
Yeah, he'll have a rank. That's his job, but I think he has a rank on top of that.
In his office, we see a chart on the screen showing the status of 10 starships. So, is this a thing? Are there only 10? I imagine this is the type of trivia that wasn't at the time when it was being recorded, when it was being filmed, that people thought anything of. But now, a lot of the sort of Trekkies will be looking at that and thinking, that's...
Yeah, certainly. I think the list of names is a list that had been created as possible names for usage. I think there's some inconsistency about how many ships of the same class and design as the Enterprise there are. I think Kirk's mentioned 12 at one stage, and I think 14 is another suggestion, but whatever it is, there's more than just that one type of starship, but of that type there are a certain number as well.
Okay. Stone seems quite helpful and communicates it down to his team, telling them that the Enterprise is now their priority. Why? Why would that get priority?
It's the flagship.
Is it? Is that... Okay.
Yeah. It's out there, going where no one has been before and invariably meeting other humans when it gets there.
Kirk is signing his declaration about what happened and the cause of death of his crewman, but he seems quite uncomfortable in doing so.
Well, I think he's read over it a few times, and this is his recollection of events in his own words.
I've actually noted here he should be used to it by now.
Of course. It happens every week.
He's just got a template. He's got a list of photocopies, another one he pulls off the top, signs his name on it.
That's it. There's a bit of an issue with Spock.
What's that?
He's not shown up.
Yes, I think he speaks to Uhura and asks where Spock is, and she says, well, he should have been there about 10 minutes ago.
So that gives us the first indication that there's some kind of problem. I like the fact that in the 1960s they couldn't envision the transmission of data from a starship to a starbase without someone physically bringing a copy of it down with them.
Stone then talks of the death of Finney, and Kirk agrees that they can't afford to lose men like him, but explains that apparently he waited until the last moment in this storm, which was worsening, before jettisoning his pod after a red alert was called. So let's break this down. I found that during this episode, it was never really explained why and what was happening. You know, it didn't...
Yeah, the one thing that strikes me as a major problem is the fact that no one else who was on the ship seemed to be aware of when the ship went to red alert. Surely that's the vital thing. You need to know when the ship's going to red alert because you're going to change how you're operating.
From what I can gather and what we've discussed in the past, it was a ship-wide communication was normally put out.
Yeah, always, in all previous examples. So it's a bit of an odd one. Spock does now, however, arrive finally.
And Kirk immediately wants to know what kept him. But before he can answer, what does Stone do?
He takes Spock's report from him and loads it up on his little computer.
Yeah, and at this point, a distressed-looking woman called Jamie, although it's spelled J-A-M-E. I don't like that spelling. There should be an I in there. That's just Jame.
Yeah.
Jamie enters, and we quickly discover who she is.
She is the daughter of the deceased crewman.
And is none too happy with Kirk, as she blames him for the death of her father.
Fair enough, he's the captain.
Yeah, and he jettisoned the pod.
Although she gets a bit over the top, saying that Kirk hated her dad and has murdered him.
Yeah, he never liked him. Before she is led away by Spock, I think on the orders of Stone, or the advice of Stone.
Yes, the suggestion.
But things get worse, as Stone then accuses Kirk of perjury.
Yes, the computer records don't tally with Kirk's account.
What's the difference?
The order of the jettisoning of the pod and the issuing of the red alert.
Yeah, so apparently the jettisoning happened during a yellow alert.
According to the computer.
Somebody's up to something here. Something's not quite right.
Yes, cliffhanger.
And computers never make a mistake.
Never.
At this point, we have the credits before a Captain's Log 2948.5 with another new style shot of the Enterprise, which I liked.
Yep, very nice. Kirk is confined to the starbase as repairs are ongoing, but he's confident he will be exonerated by the inquiry.
He seems very relaxed about things. And we see him next down in the starbase bar restaurant.
Yeah, some kind of bar. He goes there with McCoy. Yeah,
they mosey up to the actual bar itself and acknowledge a few of the patrons he knows from apparently his time in the academy.
They're not pleased to see him though.
No, it's very clear that they have an issue. There's an atmosphere there.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate because none of them are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt in this circumstance. No,
well, it takes a few moments. I think he nods to a few different people sitting in different places, but then the chaps that are beside him effectively say that they want him gone ASAP, as Finney was a friend of theirs. I think the implication obviously is that he was responsible for his death.
Yeah, which seems very odd.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I would imagine, it's a dangerous job that these people are involved in, especially those upon the Enterprise. And I think you only have to look at the records, as we've previously mentioned, to note that, yeah, it's a high-risk career they're involved in, and deaths are to be expected. Now, I wonder, at this point, Ian, can I ask you, do we know anything of the pay that these people get? I mean, is there some sort of danger money?
By the time you get to the next generation, there's no money. because everyone just tries to better themselves and they don't have money.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if that's really addressed in this series, whether it's the same situation or not quite at that point yet.
Okay.
But that's where they get to anyway. I think for this scene, I think actually the fact about this scene is it's been moved from later in the episode to earlier, which is why some of the things don't quite fit.
Later on, yeah.
Maybe you're feeling that they've heard some of the evidence or they're aware of the trial or whatever else. At this stage, all they can really be aware of is that there's an inquiry coming up.
Yeah.
So it seems a bit much for them to be so aggressively upset with Kirk. But that's, again, I think just a product of that switch.
Sure, because they would have to have understood that Finney hated Kirk, and Kirk reciprocated this for them to assume that he was there was some sort of malice involved.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just another unfortunate casualty that's happened many times before.
Although I suppose if they're friends of Finney's and he's been saying to them for years, that Kirk's out to get me, one day he's going to get me, or something's going to happen.
Yeah,
I can't believe they put me in the Enterprise. Kirk's going to do, I don't know what he's going to do. That would be setting them up for this sort of scenario over the long term. But
then Kirk would have a reputation, I suppose, around places that he was maybe not the... I don't know, I get the feeling that Kirk doesn't have that reputation, but from anyone.
Of causing people's deaths?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
That he's a bad guy, that he's out to get people, or...
No, but they could be jealous officers if they're junior officers that feel like, they're being passed over for promotions and things like that.
Yeah. In any case, at this point, Kirk storms out, passing a glamorous older lady who enters, and McCoy is immediately all over her.
Yeah, he uses the "I know Jim Kirk" chat up line to start.
That's
with.
exactly what I've got here. That's his angle. I'm friends with the lead singer. I can get you access when I come backstage.
She says that she's Ariel Shaw and she's an old friend of Kirk's.
This doesn't put off McCoy, who offers her a drink and tells her
I don't think he gives her a choice, does he? It's more like, okay, I'll get you a drink. He needs as many friends as he can get.
Yeah, and I think if we become friends, close friends, then we can provide that close friendship to effectively take this drink.
Build a support network.
Yeah, in my quarters. From there we head back to Stone's office, where he is questioning him to try and determine if a court-martial is required. And this has been recorded on the computer.
Yeah.
What are the charges?
Perjury, culpable negligence. We
begin with Kirk confirming that he and Finney knew each other for a fairly long time, and that, this is the thing, and we can get to this, Jamie was actually named after him. So this isn't just a passing acquaintance or an association.
Yeah, no, they've been friends in the past. There's some suggestion here, I think, that Finney is an older officer. He spent a long time teaching at the academy before he went on to active duty.
Yes.
Which is, I don't know if they're hinting at something or suggesting maybe he wasn't.
Well, I think they said that he spent an awful lot of time training, so I think they're suggesting that what they're doing here is showing that it's not Kirk's fault that his career hasn't progressed.
Yeah, so he was slow to develop as an officer, not through any fault of Kirk's.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
In any case, Kirk goes on to explain the root of the ill feeling between Finney and himself.
Yes, there was an incident when they were both working on, I think, the Republic, where Finney had been on a late shift and he'd left a circuit open that had caused a danger to the ship, and Kirk, relieving him, had spotted this and resolved it, but had had to report the matter.
Yeah, and because of that, Finney was relegated to the bottom of the promotion list and therefore blamed Kirk for his less than stellar career progression.
Yeah, he basically blames Kirk for not covering for him, which I think is an unfair expectation.
It is unfair, but it's not unrealistic.
Well, some folk would have done it.
Yeah.
So I suppose Kirk's maybe seen as the sort of golden boy, do-gooder, and that's maybe why so many folk are quite quick to turn on him.
In fact, we see someone offering to cover up in a moment. But anyway, they go on to discuss the storm that led to Finney's death, and Kirk states that it was an ion-based one, and admitted that it was him who sent Finney into this pod. So why during a storm was someone sent to a pod in the first place?
Okay, so my best guess is it's some kind of monitoring pod that sticks out from the ship, but I can't picture it too clearly.
We've not heard about this pod previously. Do we hear about it in the future? Is it a thing, the pod?
I can't really remember it.
Okay.
Obviously it's been jettisoned now, so...
Sure. That just seems an odd thing. You've got a storm which is getting worse. The last thing you do is send out... It's like if you're on a normal ship in the sea and there's a storm coming, you don't put people into the lifeboats to start to go in, or a smaller boat to go and check it.
I don't think it's an escape pod or anything like that. I think it's some kind of monitoring system. I don't know. Early warning system,
that you need someone to sit in?
Yeah, I don't know. Especially since they know what's going on. It's a storm.
Yeah.
And they're in it.
Anyway. He insists that assigning Finney to the pod was not due to any sort of malice or for personal reasons, but it was simply his turn.
Fair enough.
And Finney, apparently, he hit the edge of the storm at the time Kirk signalled a yellow alert.
That's right.
Things got worse quickly, and then a red alert was signalled, with Finney knowing that he only had seconds to get out, and Kirk gave him more than these seconds, in fact.
Yeah, and he also told him, get out of there, basically ordered him to return from the pod.
However, this is where things get tricky for Kirk. Stone claims that the big issue is that the computer records contradict this, and the pod was jettisoned on yellow, not red alert.
Yes, which would be premature.
Certainly, yeah. Kirk offers no explanation, and in fact he claims that it is a near impossibility that the computer has made a mistake. And so Stone stops the recording and offers Kirk a possible way out.
Now look, Jim. Not one man in a million could do what you and I have done. Command a starship. 100 decisions a day, hundreds of lives, staked on you making every one of them right. You played out, Jim. Exhausted.
Is that the way you see it?
That's the way my report will read if you cooperate.
Physical breakdown, possibly even mental collapse.
Possibly.
I'd be admitting that a man died because...
Admit nothing. Say nothing. Let me bury the matter here and now. No starship captain has ever stood trial before, and I don't want you to be the first.
But if what you suspect is true, then I'm guilty. I should be punished.
I'm thinking of this service. I won't have it smeared.
By what, Commodore Stone?
All right. By an evident perjurer who is either covering up his bad judgment, his cowardice, or something...
That's as far as you go, sir. I'm telling you I was there, on the bridge. I know what happened. I know what I did.
It's in the transcript. And computer transcripts don't lie. Now, I'm telling you, Captain, either you accept a permanent ground assignment or the whole disciplinary weight of Starfleet Command is going to light right on your neck.
So that's the way we do it now. Sweep it under the rug and me along with it. Not on your life. I intend to fight.
Then you draw a general court.
Draw it. I demand it. And right now, Commodore Stone, right now.
I don't want to labour the point, but this just seems... There have been many incidents where Kirk, I would have thought, has been made bad decisions and been responsible for the death of members of his crew, and he's never faced a disciplinary panel for it.
So I wonder if what they're trying to say here is that it's not a bad decision, it's a malign action. He's jettisoned this body, ejected this guy when he didn't need to. He's killed him, physically killed him.
Yes, in other situations it's just been a mistake, which...
Yeah, it's judgment, yeah.
Again, he should probably be pulled off duty for those mistakes. But anyway, yeah, the suggestion is, that it's out of badness here.
Yeah.
We have another captain's log, 2948.9, and another nice shot of the base.
Just a minor recap this time.
Back down to the bar.
Yeah, where you would go if you were Kirk, obviously.
After that, yeah, everyone hates me. I'm going to go down and have a drink anyway. I don't care.
He meets this Ariel Shaw, who McCoy has told him is there.
Yeah, and it's clear they have history as they embrace before he hits her with his best shot. And this is dreadful. He claims that he should have felt her presence in the air like static electric. He's smooth, isn't he? Is that a patter as this, Kirky
so close
boy?
To slimy.
Borderline.
Yeah.
She laps it up.
Of course. Turns out she's a lawyer.
Yes, and they've not met for about 5 years. It's been that long. So
yeah.
I've said before, Kirk has a dame in every port.
A lasting effect on some of them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, she's not able to take his case on.
Yeah, well, I think firstly he wants to talk about them, but she's not that interested at this point.
Moving forward.
And gives him some advice based on the fact that the prosecution will base its case on Kirk versus the computer. And this is a strong position, and that's reasonable. There is real sort of strong evidence here that he's made a mistake. And what does he ask her?
Well, he asks if she'll take his case, but she won't.
Why not?
She is busy, I think, is all she says at this stage.
Yeah, I think she says that they're going to make an example of him.
She does say that as well.
Yeah.
But she's got a recommendation for him.
Why are they making an example of him?
Because he's the first captain to go on trial. Stone said this earlier on.
Yeah, no, but
they've got to show that there's no favourites. If he's going to insist on a trial, they're going to put it through by the book.
Yeah, sure. She does recommend someone else.
Yes, Samuel Cogley.
Samuel T. Cogley, who apparently is already due to meet with him, according to her. So someone has arranged this.
I guess he's the public defender or whatever it is on the starbase.
You think, yeah?
Oh, there can only be so many lawyers on a starbase at any one time, I guess.
Sure.
It's not like Kirk's going to get his personal family lawyer brought out.
No, maybe not. She gets up to go, and Kirk stops her to ask how she knows so much about the prosecution. And at this point, he is dealt a hammer blow.
Yeah, she says that she's the prosecutor, which makes me think she's been tiptoeing right up to the line of permissible conduct.
This just would not be allowed, certainly today. If there was a relationship, a personal relationship between the prosecutor and the defendant, whoever the district attorney or whoever, whatever jurisdiction,
from it,
yeah, you would not do this.
But even if they didn't, they wouldn't be meeting them in a bar for a chat without revealing that they were the prosecutor.
Exactly. And giving them advice.
Yeah.
I mean, are you trying to get them off? I mean, what are you going to do here? You going to prosecute to the best of your ability, which is fair enough if you're going to be professional, but therefore don't meet in the bar and help them out.
Yeah.
Even if Starfleet don't know about this prior relationship, she should bring that up and say, I can't do this.
Exactly.
But we find out anyway she's useless. She's absolutely garbage as a lawyer.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Back in his room, Kirk finds he has an unexpected visitor who's made himself quite at home.
Yeah, he goes to fix himself a drink when he finds this studious man up to his ears in books. Apparently, he's moved in, he says.
Yes, just so they can work on the case together.
He's a passion for books, which he prefers over computers, unlike Kirk, who notes that he is either what? That's the thing. I think this is the quote you thought I might have for the intro, yeah?
He's either an obsessive crackpot who's escaped from his keeper, or he's Samuel T. Cogley, attorney at law.
Both of which Cogley accepts as accurate titles, and this is... I like it. Right from the off, I thought, I like this guy.
Yeah. Do you think Cogley would ever use a Kindle to read a book?
No, but you see, this is the thing. There's a fine balance here. You get these people today even who, insist on having LPs and record players and, everything sounds better. It's like, yeah, but...
Yeah, and Cogley's method's ridiculous because how are you meant to search through 1,000 books unless they're implying he knows every case from every relevant jurisdiction and can get the examples that he needs? Mm-hmm. When you've got a computer that'll just go through it all and tell you, search for particular key phrases and it'll bring up the...
And I think there's this reverence which I'm never comfortable with, that it's the content that's important, it's the words, it's not what they're printed on or how you get
they're
it.
Stored, yeah.
Obviously there'll be a value if it's an antique book, which is fine, but if it's just it's like, books are better, they're not in any way, it's just the content's still the same.
Yeah.
I don't trust people who think that these, look, it's a book, it must be better. No, it's not. It's not. I mean, it's a podcast. This wouldn't be better in a written format. Yeah. It might be.
We'll post out cassettes to everybody that listens.
More people could understand it.
If it's written down.
Yeah.
We should probably consider transcripts at some point.
Yeah, you can do that then.
No. Okay. We skip forward to the courtroom, so presumably Cogley and Kirk's living arrangement has only lasted a certain period of time.
Stone announces that court is in session as he sits in judgment alongside 3 others who are introduced, and Kirk declines the offer to object to them. Yeah,
you've got a Starfleet representative called Lindstrom and 2 captains, Captain Krasnovsky and Captain Chandra.
No doubt they have a lot to say for themselves.
One of them does.
Okay.
Eventually.
Kirk also consents to a real prosecuting and Stone presiding over the trial.
Probably because he knows this is rubbish.
Yeah. And the judge has already said he'd like to help him get him off.
Yeah.
So. The computer then reads out the first charge of culpable negligence that caused the death of Finney. And Kirk, with Jamie looking on, pleads not guilty. And there's a dramatic sound. Why? It's not... Of course he was going to plead not guilty. This isn't a revelation. Dun, dun, dun. If it says, yes, I am guilty, that would be...
That would be the twist, yeah.
How do we begin?
The first prosecution witness is Spock.
Yeah. He's called to give testimony and sits down with his hand on this white light. What's this all about?
It's a lie detector, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which by this stage are flawless.
Oh yeah. No one can ever... Even by today's standards, you can rely on a lie detector. There's no way.
No one's ever gamed one of those.
Never. As he places his hand on this lie detector, the computer reads out data from his personnel record. I think it's bumming him up, isn't it? How
Just a little bit, yeah.
Ariel then asks him to confirm that the computer has been checked and was not malfunctioning. He agrees but says it was inaccurate, and she asks him to explain.
Why do you say that? It reports that the jettison button was pressed before the red alert.
In other words, it reports that Captain Kirk was reacting to an extreme emergency that did not then exist.
And that is impossible.
Is it? Were you watching him the exact moment he pressed the jettison button?
No, I was occupied. The ship was already on yellow alert.
Then how can you dispute the finding of the log?
I do not dispute it. I merely state that it is wrong.
Oh? On what do you base that statement?
I know the captain. He is in...
Please instruct the witness not to speculate.
Lieutenant, I am half Vulcanian. Vulcanians do not speculate. I speak from pure logic. If I let go of a hammer on a planet that has a positive gravity, I need not see it fall to know that it has, in fact, fallen.
I do not see what that
Gentlemen, human beings have characteristics, just as inanimate objects do. It is impossible for Captain Kirk to act out of panic or malice. It is not his nature.
In your opinion?
Yes. In my opinion.
Thank you. Your witness, Mr. Cogley.
So there's two things here.
Okay.
One, Spock is talking garbage.
Okay.
And two, Kirk has been shown in the past to act out of malice. Remember even after, it's been after a conscience of the king, etc. We've discussed this before, where he's made decisions that are not based purely on his job title, but based on personal...
feelings and so on. Yeah, when he went after Gary and where no one has gone before.
Mm-hmm. And Spock, comparing him to a hammer with in gravity, it was mentioned earlier, Stone says that you might be under pressure, stress, and that could have caused you to act in this way or make a mistake. Yeah. Spock should have known this, that human beings can, when stress is applied, make irrational decisions or make decisions that they would not normally agree with or be part of their character.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. It's also one of the last times we hear the word Vulcanian. I
think I used that last week when I mentioned, when I asked about the language that he spoke.
Yeah. It gets phased out.
Does it?
Just becomes Vulcans.
Sure.
The next witness is kind of pointless.
But what about Cogley, first of all? What does he...
He has no cross-examination.
All right. See, that's one of these tactics that when you watch a courtroom drama, it's like, nope, nothing. You're thinking, he's either really good or he just can't be arsed.
Yeah, one of the two. Yeah. And you hope it's not the second one. So yes, the next witness, useless.
Who is it?
It's a personnel officer from the Enterprise who basically recalls things that are in the computer.
I'm not convinced Ariel knows what she's doing, because she asks her to confirm the disciplinary issue that was on the records, but this isn't... No one's debating this. It's not. This is a matter of record.
This is the kind of thing that should have been agreed in documents by the two sides prior to the trial.
Yeah. She leaves at this point and sort of mouths sorry to Kirk, but there's no reason to mouth sorry. All she did was...
Yeah, because she's worried it sounds bad for him.
And again, Cogley has no questions.
Of course not.
Playing it cool, playing it confident. I don't need to ask questions.
Chest, yeah, that's it. He's got a plan.
Yeah. Well, in fairness to Cogley at this point, it's like, I've got the personnel woman,
there's no evidence really that's been raised. Yeah.
I've nothing to ask her here. Why are you bringing her in? This is pointless, wasting everyone's time.
Yeah. Well, talking about wasting people's time, next witness.
McCoy.
He's asked about psychology, despite never having examined Finney that we're aware of psychologically.
No.
But Cogley doesn't object for some reason to McCoy being asked to speculate on the motivations or random hypothetical possibilities that two people called Smith and Jones might interact in.
Ariel then starts with an absurd hypothesis that hatred is something that would be reflected and returned to sender, and McCoy agrees with this.
Well, he agrees that in theory it might be possible for some people but not Kirk. Mm-hmm. So she's not laid any evidence against Kirk here.
No.
It's ridiculous.
And McCoy should be ashamed of himself here without calling this out and saying, no, I've seen nothing to suggest that.
Yeah, it's wild speculation.
Mm-hmm.
So, no questions again from Cogley.
And at this point, even Stone questions him. I think he basically saying, are you sure you don't want to ask? And he's saying, no, again, nothing, you're not bringing anything.
Yeah, there's no case to answer at this stage. Yeah. Then for some reason, instead of the prosecution leading their next witness, Cogley starts leading witnesses.
That's not protocol, is it?
That's not procedurally correct.
Who's the witness?
Kirk.
As he takes the stand, we see Jamie staring intently as his record is read out by the computer, as well as a long list of commendations, which forces the very unprofessional Ariel to interrupt and ask for it to be cut short. I'm sorry, you can't. Why?
Yeah, she's saying, we can accept this as part of the record, but she's insisting on it being played for everybody else.
Exactly. So Stone asks Cogley if he's happy to curtail his client's achievements, and he brilliantly agrees at first, but then changes his mind, forcing Stone to restart the accolades. That's the clip we heard at the top of the podcast.
Yeah.
But after several more honours being trotted out, he puts an end to it in his own terms. So he's controlling this.
He knows what's going on.
He does, yeah. Before asking directly if there was a red alert before he jettisoned the pod.
He does. And Kirk narrates his version of events, says that he took the proper steps in the proper order, and when pressed by Cogley, he said that he would do exactly the same in the same circumstances if they happened again.
He's a confident man. He's very... This is how you want to act when you're in the witness stand.
Assured.
So Cogley hands Kirk over to the prosecution, who at this point brings up a visual extract from the computer log, and we get to see some CCTV footage of what went down.
Oh, why she waited till now for this?
This is only relevant.
What if Cogley didn't lead any witnesses? He just said, no, I've got no case.
She's dreadful.
There's nothing to answer.
Everything else, bring in the personnel record. Is it true that James T. Kirk is the captain of the Enterprise? Yes. That's all.
Could this have happened? Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, look, here's a video of him doing it.
You've got the smoking gun. Just play that.
That's the one. But she doesn't ask any witnesses to speak to it.
No.
She just presents it to Kirk, and he says, that's not what happened.
But in fairness, right, at this point, unless you can come up with something exceptional, which they try and do, but I don't agree with, but we'll get to that. You have video of the smoking... The smoking. You don't have video of the smoking gun, you get video of the gun being fired.
Yeah.
So this is pretty damning.
It looks that way. I think even Cogley is a bit shook.
He is, yeah, and rightly so. I mean, you've not told me about that. And again, what is the technical term? Disclosure? Is that in...
Yeah.
So he should be aware.
Yeah, she can't present this at trial if she's not brought it up beforehand.
Yeah, they should be able to have time to prepare to defend this, or look into it, examine the accuracy, or...
Most irregular.
Very. All Kirk can say is that that's not what happened.
Yeah. It doesn't sound very convincing.
No, and I'm not convinced either. Captain's log 2949.9. Kirk admits things are not looking good. And even his defence, as you said there, must have its doubts.
Up in the room that Kirk and Cogley have been sharing, Cogley puts it to Kirk that maybe he did have a lapse and he's just misremembering. And after a momentary crisis, Kirk reasserts himself.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think for a second he starts to doubt himself, but then regains his composure and his faculties.
Yeah, he offers Cogley the chance to withdraw as his attorney in the circumstances, but that's declined.
He then receives a communication from Spock, who confirms that his scan of the computer found nothing to help. And there's an accusation here.
Yeah, well, why is Spock doing this? He accuses Kirk of sounding quite bitter. It's bizarre. Spock himself has just given evidence saying the computer's wrong.
Yeah.
And yet he's curious or dubious about Kirk's response to him saying, I can't find anything wrong with it.
Although Kirk is gallant enough.
Well, he thanks them, and he suggests that maybe that...
Gracious enough, I should say.
Sure. He suggests maybe Spock will be able to beat his next captain at chess, which I think starts a little marble rolling in Spock's brain.
It does, and it starts something in my brain as well, but we will get there when we get there.
Okay. Sometime later, still in the same room, Jamie comes in.
This confused the life out of me.
That's because there was a scene that got deleted that you didn't see.
Dreadful. If that's the case, that's dreadful.
Well, she does refer to it.
So she enters and tells Cogley to make him change his plea now that she knows it wasn't his fault. So we went from seeing footage of Kirk doing it to the next scene where the daughter, who previously hated him and called him a murderer, coming in and saying, based on the footage where I saw you doing it, I now don't think...
Apparently she says she's read her father's papers, and apparently in the deleted scene, we see that, and she is given reason to think he might be trying to frame Kirk.
Who's the editor on this episode? Have you taken a note of that? This guy should be sacked. I don't want to ever see him editing again, taking out that scene.
I don't flag him up at the end. I think you can give the director some credit, Mark Daniels.
Right.
We've seen him plenty of times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not seen him at all. We've heard from
But
him.
you can't take that scene out. This doesn't make sense.
Well, she refers to looking at her father's papers.
So what? That only says that he thought he was a good guy. It doesn't mean to say that she's seen evidence of Kirk doing this.
Yeah. Well, that's what gets Cogley thinking. That's what he says to her.
Mm-hmm.
You've just seen evidence of him doing this. Why would you be changing your tune? So he's raising the same point that you are. So it's not like the show is oblivious to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point we do see Cogley having some sort of epiphany.
Yeah, maybe a wee marble rolling in his head too.
We head up to the Enterprise. We've not seen much of it this episode.
Very briefly, we get Angry McCoy again, who we saw a wee bit of last week.
Yeah, in the rec room, Spock is playing 3D computer chess when Mr. Angry enters and chastises him for doing so when their captain is in such peril. So does he think that Spock's just having a little game of chess?
Yeah, well, this is it. I read one of the companion books suggested that McCoy here is the voice of the audience, wanting to know why is Spock doing this.
There's not, I mean, again, there's not, the evidence is there. It's not, I don't know what else you could do. If I viewed that footage, I'd think to myself, yeah, well, he's done it.
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm. McCoy tells him that he's the most cold-blooded man he knows, and of course, Spock takes this as a compliment.
Yes. And then McCoy is stunned to see Spock defeat the computer.
For the fourth game in a row, I think, is it?
Something along those lines, yeah. It shouldn't be possible.
Well, yeah.
Have you ever beaten a computer?
Yeah. I mean, you get different levels. It depends who programs it. And
well, Spock's programmed it to the best of his ability, so he shouldn't be able to beat it.
No, that's not true. Spock's garbage.
He can play it at that level that the computer can.
We'll get to this, but we need to remember, we know, and in fact it was referenced in this episode not a moment ago, when Kirk says that he may be able to beat, so this guy cannot program an infallible chess playing machine. He's shit at chess.
Well, that's what he's done. He's managed to do it.
The whole defence here is based on him. No, this gets right on my beeps.
I suppose, though, it'd be like you programming a computer to play noughts and crosses, and then suddenly you start beating it all the time.
No, it's not like that at all. Because noughts and crosses, if I knew how to program it, there's only so many variations.
Oh, it's the same with chess. There's only so many variations.
You know, I'm a big backgammon player. Okay, I've been playing it for every day for 25 years. Okay, now
since you were 30.
Since I was just in shorts and but I couldn't program it. I'm not a good enough programmer or a good enough player to say that, okay, if I program it because of my level, I will never be able to beat it. I might be able to program it to play at my level, but it's not that you can never beat it then. There's so many variations that on some days, like the day I program it, I might not be, you'd have to program it at the very peak of your ability. When people do something, if it's playing a sport or a game, every time you play it, you're not always exactly at that same level. So the day he programmed it might be one of his lesser days, and then he can beat it the next time, or he's made a mistake during programming. He's not a chess engineer. And
you see that even with real chess, when you've got your grandmasters playing each other, they do draw most of the time, but people win games.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So where were we?
Spock's about to tell McCoy that this is a test of the program bank, and there's clearly an issue.
Yeah, and so they have to prepare to beam down.
Yes.
Back in the courtroom, the trial is reconvened and both parties are offered a chance to make any final points, any summations.
Neither want to, which makes me wonder what Cogley was thinking about in the previous scene that we saw him.
Yeah, why would neither party want to sort of tie things up and summarise?
Yeah, a final statement to the court.
Yeah, but basic.
There you go. Just in time or too late, depending how you view court procedure, Spock and McCoy arrive.
At the last moment, they have some new evidence that they want to offer. Ariel objects. Now, this is the thing. If she's so determined to beat Kirk, don't go to the bar and help him a little bit. If there's new evidence and he is your friend,
you want to hear the evidence.
Well, say that's what you should be doing. That a court should be looking at all the evidence and saying, I want to come to the correct decision here.
But should be doing that within the rules of procedure that are laid down. But it seems to be a little bit wishy-washy with what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Yeah, and when I'll object, when I won't.
Yeah.
Take a step back. If Stone objects, then you say, fair enough, but you don't have to start objecting to things. But she's silenced by Stone, and Cogley delivers a short speech on the different types of rights that have been in place throughout time, including the right to address all witnesses against a client or against an accused.
He does.
Ariel claims that he had and refused this opportunity, but he's having his Matlock moment and tells the court that he wants to challenge the machine on the Enterprise. Again, Ariel objects and accuses him of theatrics, but Cogley passionately repeats the rights of his client.
Counsels will kindly direct their remarks to the bench.
I'd be delighted to, sir. Now that I've got something human to talk about. Rights, sir. Human rights. The Bible, the Code of Hammurabi, and of Justinian, Magna Carta, the Constitution of the United States, fundamental declarations of the Martian colonies, the statutes of Alpha 3. Gentlemen, these documents all speak of rights. Rights of the accused to a trial by his peers, to be represented by counsel. The rights of cross-examination. But most importantly, the right to be confronted by the witnesses against him. A right to which my client has been denied.
Your Honor, that is ridiculous. We produced the witnesses in court. My learned opponent had the opportunity to see them, cross-examine them.
All but one. The most devastating witness against my client is not a human being. It's a machine. An information system. The computer log of the Enterprise. And I ask this court adjourn and reconvene aboard that vessel.
I protest, Your Honor.
Then I repeat, I speak of rights. A machine has none. A man must. My client has the right to face his accuser. And if you do not grant him that right, you have brought us down to the level of the machine. Indeed, you have elevated that machine above us. I ask that my motion be granted. And more than that, gentlemen, in the name of a humanity fading in the shadow of the machine, I demand it. I demand it!
That was quite the passionate presentation.
Yeah, it would be funny if someone just said, nah, after that. Denied. Captain's Log 2950.1. The court-martial has reconvened on the Enterprise. We are now in the briefing room court, temporary court.
Yes, Cogley's made a motion of boys will be boys.
So in answer to Cogley's question, Spock tells the judges that, or the bench, that beating the computer 5 times at chess was unusual because he personally programmed it, and assuming he made no mistakes, then the computer should get no better than draws. And we've discussed that before. I don't accept it.
He should get no better than draws.
Don't accept it.
Yeah, it's not the greatest example of a flaw in the... I mean, I like the idea of the action causing an unintended effect elsewhere in the systems, but for a start, it should have been noticed when Spock did his check of the computer. For a second thing, this is not a very good demonstration of it.
Yeah, and what you should do as well, or what you could do, is that in that case then, you could get Kirk to play the computer and he should always beat him. If a computer can beat Kirk, then it shows that it's not like...
something's going wrong.
Yeah. He goes on to claim that someone has adjusted the memory banks of the computer, and Cogley tries to imply that this could have affected the video playback. This is very hard to get on board with.
Yeah, Spock says maybe, but there's only really 3 people on board who could have done that.
Yeah.
One of them's dead.
Kirk is then asked what he did after the incident, and he outlines a detailed Phase 1 search for an injured man that may be capable of responding.
I'm unhappy with this.
Why?
Why is Kirk suddenly allowed to give more evidence? Why is Spock allowed to give more evidence? They've already given evidence.
They're just making this up.
There's no procedure here at all. It's all gone haywire. It's a bit like the last court-martial for Spock, where he just took over and said, I'm just going to play my video. I'm
guessing they didn't employ a legal consultant to say, right, how would this be? Can you talk us through the process, the procedures and protocols just to get it a little bit right?
Yeah, at least it seems like a proper trial.
Yeah. But no, didn't bother.
No.
I mean, you could say, well, okay, it's different in the future, but it shouldn't be worse in the future.
No, yeah, it shouldn't. Yeah, free for all. Ridiculous.
Cogley continues with this line by stating that searching for this person would only be useful if they wanted to be found, not simply hiding.
Yes.
Now,
interesting question.
It is, and okay, we'll get there.
What's the long game for this hiding man?
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? He then makes a bold claim that Finney is not dead.
Yeah, and then we get a strange wipe on the screen that we haven't seen before to suggest the passing of time.
Did we?
I think so.
Okay, didn't notice that.
Don't know, we'll see it again.
Good. If it's strange, we shouldn't get it
You've
again.
missed it. Stone's asking for evidence.
Yeah, we're on the bridge now.
Coughlin wants to do an experiment. Has all decorum broken down here? It's like, we're not going to take evidence, we're just going to do funny tests.
Yeah, what's this experiment all about? Tell us.
Well, they're going to ask everyone except the command crew and the members of the court to leave the ship, and then they're going to use some very dicey science to prove that there's somebody else on board the ship.
So, when the others have cleared out, Kirk explains that the computer can hear every sound on the ship. Now, that could be quite embarrassing. If you didn't know that, it's like, Spock, that, really?
That'd be brilliant. Every 8 heartbeats, somebody farts.
You can hear me every sound. So, when I'm in my quarters at night, you can hear what I'm doing. Yeah. Didn't know that.
I can hear your heartbeat, you can definitely hear everything you've said.
And are doing.
Yes.
Oh. Do you listen in often? Sometimes.
How depressing would that be, listening to every sound that everybody's making? Oh, Scotty's in the toilet again.
Into Rand's room.
Anyhow, McCoy uses the worst prop in the history of Star Trek to delete heartbeats.
Well, firstly, yeah, we should establish that they bring up the sound of heartbeat. Everyone's heartbeat on the ship. It's really loud and everyone's a bit uncomfortable.
It's bizarre because it picks that up, but not what Kirk's saying.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Apparently, yeah, this device, it's a white noise machine. It looks like a Shure SM58 microphone or thereabouts.
It could well be.
Yeah. Apparently this, if you touch it to your chest, this will remove, it's like a noise cancellation.
Yes.
But finding that frequency, and you put your microphone there, and then you can remove that from what you hear. So they do that with everyone on the bridge, and I think there's a person or two down in
the transporter room. I think the transporter chief's there. So Spock does his one remotely.
How can you do it remotely if you need this microphone?
You must be able to like shoot him with white noise from the ceiling or something.
Yeah. And this accounts for everyone. So it should be silent.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No.
Why not?
There's one more heartbeat, and Stone knows who it must be.
It's coming from B deck.
Engineering.
So at this, Kirk is allowed for some reason to go alone to confront Finney.
What's going on here? This is most irregular. Why are you letting him go off by himself with a phaser to deal with this problem? I shot Finney. He wasn't dead before.
Who has been accused of deliberately killing someone.
Yes. The man, No, stop.
So now he might get down there. As we see happens, I got into a fight and the phaser went off accident and he's dead.
Yeah, he was alive right up until now. And he changed the video.
Yeah. In the corridor, as he walks with a phaser in hand, his own voiceover explains that Jamie has been brought on board just in case she's needed. I'm sure she won't.
It's a hostage. Up on the bridge, they can hear Kirk calling out to Finney. But Hansen, who only also appears in the menagerie, tells Spock that there's problems with their orbit.
Yeah, I think it's starting to decay.
Which Kirk had assured, or Spock had assured the court would not happen.
No, but we find out why that's happened. It's a bit of a jiggery-pokery.
Jiggery-pokery indeed.
We hear Finney's echoey voice, and Kirk tells him that he's glad he's alive, but Finney thinks that it is more relief that his career is not over rather than that he's not dead.
Well, that's probably true.
Yeah, I'd say so. Kirk loses people all the time, doesn't bother him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to lose his career.
No, or his ship.
No. He insists that he can help him, but Finney moans about how he's always kept him down before appearing behind him with his phaser and an accusation of a conspiracy against him.
Put the phaser down, Ben.
Oh, I wouldn't kill you, Captain. Your own death would mean too little to you. But your ship...
What about my ship?
It's dead. I've killed it. I tapped out your primary energy circuits.
Spock, what's our orbit status?
Decaying, Captain.
Variance at second level, depreciating unusually fast.
You're out of power. I know this ship, too. The Enterprise should have been mine. You kept me from it.
Ben, why kill innocent people?
Innocent? Officers and gentlemen, captains all, except for Finney,
and his one mistake. A long time ago, but they don't forget.
I logged the mistake, Ben. Blame me, not them.
But they are to blame. All of them. I was a good officer. I really was. I love the service more than any man ever dared.
Mr. Spock, we're running out of time.
Do you have any sympathy for Finney there?
I think he's clearly mentally unstable and unwell. He's had a breakdown. I would suggest he's not criminally... It's not just a badness.
No, I think this thing's been weighing on him so long it's driven him a bit mental.
Yeah. On the bridge, as we had it at the end of the clip there, Spock notes that they're running out of time and initially orders the court officials to the transporter room.
They won't go.
No, Stone reminds him that a verdict has not been reached and wants to hear out Finney. So down in engineering, Kirk pleads with him not to kill innocent people. But he says that they killed him and it's a fair trade. They didn't kill him.
Killed his career.
Yeah, but that's not really a fair trade, is it?
No.
You killed my career, I'm going to physically kill all of you.
But he is particularly distressed, or becomes particularly distressed, when Kirk advises him that there is another person on board.
Yeah, his daughter. That was a wise move there. Sneaky little move.
Even if she's not on board, we don't see her.
Yeah, might be lying, but you mean he's not lying?
No. Well, we assume not. Finney is enraged by this and says he's going to kill Kirk. I thought he was already doing that.
Exactly. I'm going to kill you harder.
Kill you quicker, more. Faster now, more.
And because of this enragement, Kirk is able to tackle him and disarm him after a fight involving the terrible use of a spanner and stunt doubles.
Yes, we'll get back to them. We then see Kirk trying to fix the problem as voiceover Kirk explains that he beat the answers out of Finney.
I'd like to have seen that.
Apparently there was a deleted scene where Jamie showed up and that caused Finney to break down and confess to what he'd done.
Again, editor sacked.
He's changed the whole episode.
I would make sure Shatner should have done a Kirk on this guy like Finney. Put him to the bottom of the promotion. So from now on, this editor's raged at William Shatner, got him stalled his career, and never back to bonanza and old TV shows. He was wanting Hollywood, but no.
That's how he's back to the lot.
Yeah.
Up on the bridge, power begins to return. Kirk has successfully saved the Enterprise.
Yeah, I think before that there was a little tension.
There was. I think it was deliberate.
Yes. And in true Matlock style, Stone declares that the court should be dismissed unless the prosecution objects, which, of course, it doesn't.
Yes, he declares a verdict of drinks for everybody, it's Friday.
And there's a freeze frame with a big smile and a laugh and a joke. Still on the bridge a little later, Ariel is saying her goodbyes to Kirk and has something for him.
Yeah, a book.
From who?
Cogley, who's got a new client now.
Who's that?
Finney. He thinks he's going to get him off.
Yeah, I'm not convinced about that one, but hey.
I don't think the Enterprise is waiting around to find out.
No.
He can be assigned somewhere else.
She then asks if it would be scandalous for her to kiss him on the bridge of his ship. Ooh, where's that?
Yeah.
Sounds naughty.
Undermining the entire trial. But anyway.
Have you ever been kissed on the bridge of your ship?
Not by a prosecuting advocate, that's for sure.
He accepts the offer before she leaves, and he wishes her better luck next time.
Well, she feels she got a good result there by losing.
Not how she was acting when she was objecting to all sorts.
No.
New evidence, I don't care, object. I've seen this on the TV, this is what you say, objection.
I object, most profoundly.
It's overruled, does that mean, what's sustained, does that mean I can keep going? No, overruled, I don't know. These are the words, buzzwords.
Yes, we then see Kirk meander down to his chair, almost embarrassedly, as McCoy and Spock try to keep a straight face.
Yes.
Even the emotionless Spock is finding this hilarious.
Don't want to mention the kiss or the obvious relationship.
Oh, yeah, Kirk's obviously a bit embarrassed here.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care.
No.
Because he encouraged it.
And he's got a buzz on here for, winning his case.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're off to the next adventure.
They are. So, I said at the start of the podcast, Ian, I didn't hate this episode for all its massive faults. It wasn't one that... I was more annoyed with the Galileo 7 because of Kirk's actions. But you can't take this seriously. There's just so many holes and...
Yeah, and with my legal hat on, I was very distressed by the lack of procedure in the court.
Yeah. Well, you don't need a legal hat. You just need to have watched a few movies or TV shows in the past to understand that's not how it works.
I didn't like the fact that his chair had 3 buttons: red alert, yellow alert, and eject crewman.
Did it?
Well, I think he said jettison pod.
Right, yeah.
Well, why would his chair only have those 3 buttons for that one very specific scenario?
Yeah.
And why is he suddenly ordering red alerts by pressing a button instead of saying red alert?
Yeah.
Like he's done in every other episode. And how can you have a red alert by pressing the button and Spock not know it's red alert?
Mm-hmm. It's almost as if they needed that contrivance for this episode.
Yeah.
So, no, poor episode, bad editing, didn't make much sense.
Ruined Jamie's part in the story by making her seem completely contrary.
Yeah.
Contrary?
Yeah, like a complete idiot. But anyway, Cogley was good.
Yeah, he had his moments.
Didn't mind him. I'd like to see more of him.
I quite liked Stone.
Stone was okay, yeah. Although he's like, I'll sweep it under the carpet if you want, Jim.
Yeah, not without any consequences, so he was going to make him leave the ship and work in an office.
True. The personnel officer, she was good. Hope we see more of her.
No chance. Nobody sees more of her. Maybe her family.
Okay. Tell us about that.
No, she doesn't even want a mention.
No?
No.
Done 3 other things.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about someone else.
Okay, so the episode originally aired on the 2nd of February 1967. It was directed by Mark Daniels, who you'll recall from 3 previous episodes, 4 if you include both parts of the menagerie. He's got another 10 to go. Starting as far back as The Man Trap, so if you want to hear about him, go back to episode 1 and listen again to that. Don Mankiewicz wrote the original script for this episode, and this maybe explains some of the problem, because it got rewritten by somebody else afterwards and then edited by somebody different from that again.
A child.
Well, but at this stage, Mankiewicz had an Academy Award nomination on his resume for writing. And he would go on to write for shows like Ironside, Macmillan and Wife, and MacGyver.
Ironside, he was going to write courtroom procedures.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
He died in 2015 when he was 93. And when he was unavailable to do the rewrite to his own script, the script consultant Stephen Karabatsos stepped in. This is one of only 2 writing credits he would get for the show, but he was script consultant for 11 episodes, of which this was the 8th. He mostly did editing work in terms of scripts, but he also had writing credits on Kojak and Peyton Place. He's now 81. So you can look him up and blame him if you want for the...
Abuse him on Twitter.
Well, maybe don't do that.
No, I'm saying I will. I'm not suggesting anyone else does. I'll take the responsibility.
Alright, you'll do yourself.
Yeah.
Percy Rodriguez played Commodore Stone. He only made this one Star Trek appearance, but he also appeared in shows like Banachek and T.J. Hooker, as well as a recurring role on Benson. And he died in 2007 at the age of 89.
Okay.
Elisha Cook Jr., Cogley. This was his only Star Trek appearance, but he would go on to appear in shows like Batman, The Twilight Zone, and he had a recurring role on Magnum P.I. He died in 1995 when he was 91. Joan Marshall played Ariel Shaw. This was her only Star Trek role.
Is a real name?
I don't know.
Never heard of it before.
If it wasn't real, it would be a fake Shaw. She was actually in the pilot episode of The Munsters, but her character was cut out before they went on to the actual run. She died in Jamaica in 1992 at the age of 61.
How did she die?
Don't know.
Okay.
She lived there. It wasn't on holiday or anything.
Right. That was the cause of her death, was it?
Living in Jamaica?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any information on her cause of death.
Okay.
Richard Webb played Finney. Again, this was his only Star Trek appearance. It's funny that how nobody got invited back after this episode. He had a fairly prolific career. It lasted from 1940 until 1978, and it was perhaps highlighted by his role as Captain Midnight in the 50s A Kids TV series. He killed himself in 1993 at the age of 77, reportedly on account of his failing health.
Not so good.
He also ties into our Columbo connection for this week. So his stunt double, who you almost certainly spotted during that fight in engineering with Kirk, was Troy Melton. And he made an uncredited appearance in the 2nd season Columbo episode Etude in Black as a security guard, before going on to play a security guard in Kojak and a museum guard in the 1989 TV movie Midnight Cop.
He's cornered that market.
Yeah.
Need a guard.
I think he had another appearance as a hospital guard when he was trying to branch out a little bit.
Okay.
In a different movie. No Scotty or Sulu in this episode. I think Sulu was in the original script, but they distributed his lines between Uhura and Hansen.
He'll be glad, not involved in this mess.
Yeah. I think Hansen was just still sitting there from when they did the menagerie. That's why he was involved in this episode. And And we'll bring back our international titles feature, which we skipped last time out. Not much variety this week. It's almost not worth bothering. Even our Japanese friends go with the simple Uchu Gumpo Kaigi, which is court-martial in space. Only the Germans tweak the theme slightly, going with Kirk unter Anklage. Kirk under accusation.
Yeah, they're fine.
Okay, so next week, unless you've got any other trivia you want to contribute.
Nope.
It's the 21st episode of Season 1, The Return of the Archons.
Of the what?
Archons.
What do you mean Return?
They've not been in it before now.
What a terrible title.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
In the meantime, find us all over social media at Trek Podcast and leave us reviews and tell all your Star Trek loving friends to tune in if you can. That would be greatly appreciated.
Until then,
we'll see you. Cheerio.
Bye bye.